for 2 minutes every day than to do an hour-long session once a week. The regular repetition of the behavior, no matter how small, helps to solidify the neural pathways associated with the habit, making it increasingly automatic over time. Moreover, the 2-minute rule allows for gradual progression. As the initial 2-minute action becomes habitual, you can slowly expand the duration or complexity of the habit. What starts as 2 minutes of reading might grow into 30 minutes or an hour. A 2-minute journaling habit might evolve into a rich daily writing practice. The key is to focus on establishing the habit loop, the cue, the routine, and the reward rather than on achieving a particular outcome. By making the habit easy to start and consistently repeatable, you create a foundation upon which more substantial behavior change can be built. It's also worth noting that the inverse of this principle can be used to break undesirable habits. If you want to reduce a negative behavior, you can increase the friction associated with it. For instance, if you find yourself watching too much television, you might unplug the TV after each use and store the remote in a drawer. This small increase in effort can be enough to break the automatic nature of the habit and give you a moment to reconsider your choice. Ultimately, the goal is to create an environment and a set of habits that make positive behaviors easy and negative behaviors difficult. This approach recognizes that our willpower is limited and that sustained behavior change is more likely to come from changing our surroundings than from sheer force of will. As we navigate the complexities of modern life with its myriad distractions and competing priorities, understanding and leveraging the power of habits becomes increasingly crucial. By focusing on the small, everyday choices that shape our behavior, we can gradually steer ourselves towards the lives we aspire to lead. This perspective invites us to view our daily routines not as a series of inconsequential actions, but as opportunities to align our behavior with our goals. Every habit, no matter how small, is a vote for the type of person we want to become. When we choose to read a page instead of scrolling through social media, when we opt for a healthy snack instead of junk food, when we decide to meditate for 2 minutes instead of immediately checking our emails, we are casting votes for our ideal selves. The cumulative effect of these small choices can be truly transformative. Over time, these habits shape not just our actions, but our identities. We become readers, healthy eaters, mindful individuals not through single, heroic efforts, but through the consistent repetition of small, positive actions. Moreover, this approach to behavior change is inherently empowering. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of our goals, we can focus on taking small, manageable steps in the right direction. We recognize that every day presents us with numerous opportunities to make choices that align with our aspirations. As we become more attuned to the decisive moments in our days, we can approach them with greater intentionality. We can design our environments and routines to support our goals, making it easier to make positive choices even when our motivation wavers. We can leverage the power of small habits to create momentum towards larger changes. In essence, mastering our habits is about mastering ourselves. It's about recognizing the immense power we have to shape our lives through the small choices we make each day. By understanding the mechanics of habit formation and leveraging principles like environmental design and the 2-minute rule, we can gradually reshape our behaviors and, by extension, our lives. This journey of self-improvement through habit formation is not about achieving perfection or adhering to a rigid set of rules. Rather, it's about creating systems that naturally guide us towards our goals. It's about making the right choices easier and the wrong choices harder. It's about harnessing the power of incremental progress to create lasting change. As we embark on this journey, it's important to approach it with patience and self-compassion. Changing ingrained habits takes time, and setbacks are a normal part of the process. The key is to focus on consistency rather than perfection, to celebrate small victories, and to view each day as a new opportunity to align our actions with our intentions. In conclusion, the study of habits offers you as a powerful lens through which to view personal growth and behavior change. By understanding the outsized impact of small actions, the importance of decisive moments, and the power of environmental design, we can approach self-improvement in a more strategic and effective way. As we master our habits, we don't just change our behaviors, we change our lives. In the intricate tapestry of human behavior, our daily choices serve as the individual threads that, when woven together, create the fabric of our lives. Among these myriad decisions, certain moments stand out as particularly significant. These are what we might call decisive moments. These pivotal instances, often seemingly small and inconsequential, have the power to shape the course of our day and, by extension, our lives. Consider the simple act of walking into a restaurant. On the surface, it might appear to be a mundane decision, but in reality, it's a decisive moment that sets the stage for what follows. By choosing to enter a particular establishment, you've effectively determined the range of options available for your meal. If you step into a steakhouse, your choices are immediately constrained to what's on their menu. You can order a sirloin or a ribeye, but sushi is off the table. This principle extends far beyond food choices. It applies to virtually every aspect of our lives. These decisive moments are the junctures at which our habits exert their influence most powerfully. Our habitual behaviors lead us down certain paths, opening some doors while closing others. This is why developing an awareness of these critical points throughout our day is so crucial. Each day is composed of countless moments, but it's the habitual choices we make at these key junctures that ultimately determine the trajectory of our time and energy. Understanding this concept allows us to approach personal growth and habit formation from a more strategic perspective. Instead of trying to overhaul our entire lifestyle at once, a daunting task that often leads to frustration and failure, we can focus on identifying and optimizing these decisive moments. By doing so, we create a ripple effect that can lead to significant changes over time. However, even when we recognize the importance of starting small, it's all too easy to fall into the trap of trying to do too much too soon. The excitement of potential change can be intoxicating, leading us to set unrealistic goals or attempt to make sweeping changes overnight. This is where the 2-minute rule comes into play, a powerful strategy for making habits stick. The 2-minute rule posits that when you're trying to establish a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This might seem counterintuitive at first. After all, how can you achieve significant change in just 2 minutes? But the beauty of this rule lies in its simplicity and its focus on getting started. Almost any habit can be distilled down to a 2-minute version. Want to read more? Start with reading just 1 page before bed. Aiming to exercise regularly? Begin by simply putting on your workout clothes. Hoping to improve your diet? Start by adding 1 vegetable to your plate at dinner. The key is to make the initial action so easy that it's almost impossible to say no to it. This approach is powerful for several reasons. Firstly, it removes the intimidation factor that often comes with trying to establish new habits. Reading an entire book might seem daunting, but reading a single page is manageable for anyone. Secondly, it leverages the principle of momentum. Once you've started an activity, it's much easier to continue. You might sit down intending to read just 1 page, only to find yourself engrossed in the book an hour later. The 2-minute rule isn't about limiting yourself to only 2 minutes of an activity. Rather, it's about creating what we might call a gateway habit, a small, easy action that naturally leads you down a more productive path. It's about mastering the art of showing up consistently, which is the foundation of any lasting habit. This concept aligns with the idea that habits must be established before they can be improved. Many people make the mistake of trying to optimize a habit before it's even become a regular part of their routine. But if you can't consistently show up, you have little hope of mastering the finer details. The 2-minute rule allows you to focus on the most critical aspect of habit formation: consistency. As you become more consistent with your 2-minute habit, it begins to serve as a ritual that signals the beginning of a larger routine. This ritualization is actually an ideal way to approach mastering difficult skills. By standardizing the beginning of a process, you make it easier to slip into a state of deep focus. Athletes often have specific warm-up routines that help them get into the right mindset for peak performance. Writers might have a particular ritual they follow before sitting down to work. These routines serve as triggers that tell your brain it's time to focus on the task at hand. Some might view the 2-minute rule as a psychological trick, and in a sense it is. You know that your ultimate goal is to do more than just 2 minutes of an activity. But this trick is based on sound psychological principles. It's about making the barrier to entry so low that you can't help but take action. And once you've taken that first step, you've already overcome the hardest part, getting started. If the idea of tricking yourself doesn't sit well with you, try this variation. Do the activity for 2 minutes and then stop, even if you want to continue. Go for a run, but stop after 2 minutes. Start meditating, but stop after 2 minutes. Study a new language, but stop after 2 minutes. This approach can be particularly effective because it leaves you wanting more, which increases the likelihood that you'll return to the activity the next day. This strategy has proven effective for many people across various goals. One individual used it to lose over 100 pounds. He started by going to the gym each day, but limiting himself to just 5 minutes. After a few weeks, he naturally began to extend his workouts. The key was that he had established the habit of going to the gym consistently before trying to do lengthy workouts. Journaling provides another excellent example of the power of this approach. Many people avoid journaling or give up quickly because it feels like a chore. But by committing to write for just 2 minutes a day, or to write less than you feel like writing, you can build a consistent habit without it ever feeling burdensome. This principle of stopping before it feels like work can be applied to virtually any habit you're trying to establish. The 2-minute rule and similar strategies are effective for another crucial reason: they reinforce the identity you want to build. Every time you show up to do your 2-minute habit, you're casting a vote for your new identity. If you go to the gym for 5 days in a row, even if it's just for 2 minutes each time, you're reinforcing your identity as someone who doesn't miss workouts. You're not focused on getting in shape, the outcome. You're focused on becoming the type of person who exercises regularly, the identity. This shift in focus from outcomes to identity is a powerful one. It's easy to get consumed by end goals: losing weight, writing a book, learning a new skill. But by focusing on the smallest actions that confirm the type of person you want to be, you're laying the groundwork for lasting change. 1 push-up is better than not exercising at all. 1 minute of guitar practice is better than none. 1 page of reading is better than never picking up a book. As you consistently show up and your 2-minute habit becomes ingrained, you can begin to shape it towards your ultimate goal. This process, which we might call habit shaping, involves gradually scaling up your habit while still maintaining your focus on the crucial first 2 minutes. For example, if your goal is to become an early riser, you might start by simply being home by 10 p.m. every night. Once that becomes easy, you move to having all devices turned off by 10 p.m. The next step might be being in bed by 10 p.m., then lights off by 10 p.m., and finally waking up at 6 a.m. each day. At each day, you're focusing on mastering just the first 2 minutes of the behavior before moving on to the next level. This gradual approach can be applied to any habit you're trying to build. If you want to become vegan, you might start by adding vegetables to each meal, then progressively eliminating different types of animal products from your diet. If you're aiming to establish an exercise routine, you begin with simply changing into workout clothes, then stepping out the door for a walk, and gradually building up to regular gym sessions. The beauty of this approach lies in its flexibility and its respect for the gradual nature of true behavior change. It recognizes that lasting habits are built slowly and consistently, not through Herculean efforts that burn you out quickly. It allows you to celebrate small victories along the way, reinforcing your motivation and your new identity. Moreover, This strategy aligns with our understanding of how the brain forms habits. Neuroscience tells us that habits are formed through repetition, as neural pathways are strengthened through consistent use. By focusing on small, manageable actions that you can repeat daily, you're effectively training your brain to associate certain cues with certain behaviors. It's worth noting that this approach to habit formation doesn't just apply to personal habits. It can be equally effective in professional settings or when trying to implement changes in organizations. Too often, companies try to implement sweeping changes all at once, leading to resistance and failed initiatives. By breaking down large changes into smaller, more manageable steps, organizations can more effectively guide their employees towards new ways of working. As you embark on your journey of habit formation, it's crucial to maintain a perspective of patience and self-compassion. Change takes time, and setbacks are a normal part of the process. The goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every time you show up for your 2-minute habit, you're moving in the right direction, regardless of what happens afterwards. Remember your heroic efforts, but in the small, consistent actions we take each day. By understanding the power of decisive moments, leveraging the 2-minute rule, and focusing on identity-based habits, we can create meaningful change in our lives. It's about making the right behaviors easy, focusing on consistency over intensity, and trusting in the compounding effect of small actions over time. As you move forward, challenge yourself to identify the decisive moments in your day. Where are the points at which a small choice could lead you down a more positive path? Then, apply the 2-minute rule to create gateway habits that align with your goals. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or in this case, a single 2-minute action. By mastering the art of showing up, you set the stage for transformative change and growth. Your future self will thank you for the small, consistent efforts you make today. In the realm of personal development and habit formation, we often focus on strategies to make positive behaviors easier to adopt. However, an equally powerful approach is to make undesirable habits more difficult to maintain. This principle is beautifully illustrated by the story of Victor Hugo and his novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 1830, Hugo found himself in a predicament familiar to many creatives. He had promised his publisher a new book, but had spent the year procrastinating. Faced with an imminent deadline, Hugo devised an ingenious, if unconventional, solution. He gathered all his clothes and had them locked away, leaving himself with nothing but a large shawl to wear. Unable to leave his study without proper attire, Hugo had no choice but to focus on his writing. The result: The Hunchback of Notre Dame was completed ahead of schedule. This anecdote exemplifies what psychologists call a commitment device, a choice made in the present that controls future actions. By removing the option to engage in other activities, Hugo created an environment where writing was the path of least resistance. This strategy inverts the common advice to make good habits easier. Instead, it focuses on making bad habits harder. Commitment devices can take many forms, each tailored to address specific challenges. For those struggling with overeating, purchasing food in individual portions rather than bulk sizes can serve as a natural limit on consumption. Gamblers might voluntarily add themselves to casino ban lists to prevent future indulgences. Athletes needing to maintain a certain weight for competition might leave their wallets at home to avoid the temptation of fast food. These strategies work by leveraging our good intentions before we can fall victim to temptation. They recognize that willpower is a finite resource and that the environment often plays a more significant role in our behavior than sheer determination. By altering our environment or creating obstacles to undesired behaviors, we can guide ourselves towards better choices without relying solely on willpower. The key to effective commitment devices is to make the effort required to break a good habit or engage in a bad one greater than the effort to maintain the desired behavior. For instance, if you're trying to establish a fitness routine, you might schedule and pay for classes in advance. The financial commitment and the social expectation of attendance create a situation where following through requires less effort than cancelling. While commitment devices are powerful tools for behavior change, we can push this concept even further. Instead of just making bad habits difficult, we can strive to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. This approach is exemplified by the story of John Henry Patterson and the invention of the cash register. In the mid-1800s, Patterson owned a small supply store that was struggling due to employee theft. At the time, this was a common problem with no easy solution. However, Patterson's fortunes changed when he discovered Ritty's incorruptible cashier, the first cash register. By automatically locking away cash and receipts after each transaction, the machine made theft practically impossible. The results were immediate, and dramatic. Patterson's business went from losing money to turning a significant profit within 6 months. The brilliance of the cash register lay in its ability to automate ethical behavior. Rather than trying to change the employee's mindset or increase surveillance, it simply removed the option to steal. This principle can be applied to various aspects of our lives. By creating systems that make preferred behaviors automatic and undesired behaviors impractical, we can effect lasting change with minimal ongoing effort. This concept of one-time actions that pay dividends over time is particularly intriguing. These are choices that require some initial effort, but create increasing value as time passes. For example, installing a water filter can lead to long-term improvements in health and reduced plastic waste. Buying a quality mattress can enhance sleep quality for years to come. Unsubscribing from unnecessary emails can permanently reduce daily distractions. The power of these one-time actions lies in their ability to shape our environment and, by extension, our behavior without requiring constant conscious effort. They embody the principle of making good habits easier and bad habits harder on a long-term scale. By thoughtfully modifying our surroundings and systems, we can create an environment that naturally guides us towards better choices. Consider the impact of seemingly small changes like using smaller plates to reduce caloric intake or removing the TV from the bedroom to improve sleep habits. These simple actions can have profound effects on our health and well-being over time. Similarly, financial habits can be dramatically improved through one-time actions like setting up automatic savings plans or bill payments. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and accessibility. While not everyone may have the willpower to consistently make healthy choices or stick to a budget, most people can manage a one-time action that sets up a more supportive environment. This democratizes the process of habit formation, making it attainable for a wider range of individuals. Moreover, these strategies often have compounding effects. For instance, improving sleep quality through better bedding and a TV-free bedroom can lead to increased energy and productivity during the day. This, in turn, might make it easier to maintain a regular exercise routine or make healthier food choices. Similarly, automating finances can reduce stress and free up mental energy for other pursuits. It's important to note that while these strategies can be highly effective, they're not a panacea. Personal growth and habit formation still require effort and commitment. However, by focusing on creating an environment that supports our goals, we can significantly reduce the amount of willpower required to maintain positive habits. This approach also aligns well with our understanding of human psychology. We are profoundly influenced by our environment, often more than we realize. By consciously shaping that environment, we can harness this influence for our benefit. It's a way of working with our natural tendencies rather than constantly fighting against them. Furthermore, this strategy of environmental design can be applied at various scales. Individuals can use it to improve personal habits, but it can also be implemented at organizational or societal levels. For example, companies might redesign office spaces to encourage more movement or collaboration. Cities could modify urban planning to promote walking and cycling over driving. As we consider implementing these strategies in our own lives, it's worth taking time to reflect on our specific challenges and goals. What are the habits we're struggling to form or break? What aspects of our environment might be hindering our progress? By identifying these pain points, we can more effectively target our interventions. It's also valuable to think creatively about potential solutions. While some commitment devices or environmental changes might be obvious, others might require more innovative thinking. The goal is to find solutions that work for our individual circumstances and preferences. Additionally, it's crucial to approach this process with patience and self-compassion. Habit change is rarely a linear process, and setbacks are normal. The advantage of focusing on environmental changes is that they continue to exert their influence, even when our motivation wavers. In conclusion, while traditional advice on habit formation often focuses on willpower and motivation, there's immense power in shaping our environment to support our goals. By creating commitment devices, automating good behaviors, and making one-time changes that yield long-term benefits, we can significantly increase our chances of success. This approach recognizes that sustainable change often comes not from Herculean efforts of will, but from thoughtful adjustments to our surroundings and systems. It's about creating an environment where good habits are the path of least resistance, and bad habits require conscious effort to maintain. As we move forward in our personal growth journeys, let's consider how we can leverage these principles. What commitment devices might help us overcome our specific challenges? What one-time actions could we take to set ourselves up for long-term success? By answering these questions and taking action, we can create lasting change with less ongoing effort, freeing up our mental energy to focus on what truly matters in our lives. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every step we take to align our environment with our aspirations is a step towards becoming the person we want to be. By making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, we're not just changing our behaviors, we're reshaping our lives. In the realm of personal development and habit formation, we often focus on strategies to make positive behaviors easier to adopt. However, an equally powerful approach is to make undesirable habits more difficult to maintain. This principle is beautifully illustrated by the story of Victor Hugo and his novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 1830, Hugo found himself in a predicament familiar to many creatives. He had promised his publisher a new book but had spent the year procrastinating. Faced with an imminent deadline, Hugo devised an ingenious, if unconventional, solution. He gathered all his clothes and had them locked away, leaving himself with nothing but a large shawl to wear. Unable to leave his study without proper attire, Hugo had no choice but to focus on his writing. The result? The Hunchback of Notre Dame was completed ahead of schedule. This anecdote exemplifies what psychologists call a commitment device, a choice made in the present that controls future actions. By removing the option to engage in other activities, Hugo created an environment where writing was the path of least resistance. This strategy inverts the common advice to make good habits easier. Instead, it focuses on making bad habits harder. Commitment devices can take many forms, each tailored to address specific challenges. For those struggling with overeating, purchasing food in individual portions rather than bulk sizes can serve as a natural limit on consumption. Gamblers might voluntarily add themselves to casino ban lists to prevent future indulgences. Athletes needing to maintain a certain weight for competition might leave their wallets at home to avoid the temptation of fast food. These strategies work by leveraging our good intentions before we can fall victim to temptation. They recognize that willpower is a finite resource, and that the environment often plays a more significant role in our behavior than sheer determination. By altering our environment or creating obstacles to undesired behaviors, we can guide ourselves towards better choices without relying solely on willpower. The key to effective commitment devices is to make the effort required to break a good habit or engage in a bad one greater than the effort to maintain the desired behavior. For instance, if you're trying to establish a fitness routine, you might schedule and pay for classes in advance. The financial commitment and the social expectation of attendance create a situation where following through requires less effort than canceling. While commitment devices are powerful tools for behavior change, we can push this concept even further. Instead of just making bad habits difficult, we can strive to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. This approach is exemplified by the story of John Henry Patterson and the invention of the cash register. In the mid-1800s, Patterson owned a small supply store that was struggling due to employee theft. At the time, this was a common problem with no easy solution. However, Patterson's fortunes changed when he discovered Ritty's incorruptible cashier, the first cash register. By automatically locking away cash and receipts after each transaction, the machine made theft practically impossible. The results were immediate and dramatic. Patterson's business went from losing money to turning a significant profit within 6 months. The brilliance of the cash register lay in its ability to automate ethical behavior. Rather than trying to change the employee's mindset or increase surveillance, it simply removed the option to steal. This principle can be applied to various aspects of our lives. By creating systems that make preferred behaviors automatic and undesired behaviors impractical, we can effect lasting change with minimal ongoing effort. This concept of one-time actions that pay dividends over time is particularly intriguing. These are choices that require some initial effort, but create increasing value as time passes. For example, installing a water filter can lead to long-term improvements in health and reduced plastic waste. Buying a quality mattress can enhance sleep quality for years to come. Unsubscribing from unnecessary emails can permanently reduce daily distractions. The power of these one-time actions lies in their ability to shape our environment and, by extension, our behavior without requiring constant conscious effort. They embody the principle of making good habits easier and bad habits harder on a long-term scale. By thoughtfully modifying our surroundings and systems, we can create an environment that naturally guides us towards better choices. Consider the impact of seemingly small changes like using smaller plates to reduce caloric intake or removing the TV from the bedroom to improve sleep habits. These simple actions can have profound effects on our health and well-being over time. Similarly, financial habits can be dramatically improved through one-time actions like setting up automatic savings plans or bill payments. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and accessibility. While not everyone may have the willpower to consistently make healthy choices or stick to a budget, most people can manage a one-time action that sets up a more supportive environment. This democratizes the process of habit formation, making it attainable for a wider range of individuals. Moreover, these strategies often have compounding effects. For instance, improving sleep quality through better bedding and a TV-free bedroom can lead to increased energy and productivity during the day. This, in turn, might make it easier to maintain a regular exercise routine or make healthier food choices. Similarly, automating finances can reduce stress and free up mental energy for other pursuits. It's important to note that while these strategies can be highly effective, they're not a panacea. Personal growth and habit formation still require effort and commitment. However, by focusing on creating an environment that supports our goals, we can significantly reduce the amount of willpower required to maintain positive habits. This approach also aligns well with our understanding of human psychology. We are profoundly influenced by our environment, often more than we realize. By consciously shaping that environment, we can harness this influence for our benefit. It's a way of working with our natural tendencies rather than constantly fighting against them. Furthermore, this strategy of environmental design can be applied at various scales. Individuals can use it to improve personal habits, but it can also be implemented at organizational or societal levels. For example, companies might redesign office spaces to encourage more movement or collaboration. Cities could modify urban planning to promote walking and cycling over driving. As we consider implementing these strategies in our own lives, it's worth taking time to reflect on our specific challenges and goals. What are the habits we're struggling to form or break? What aspects of our environment might be hindering our progress? By identifying these pain points, we can more effectively target our interventions. It's also valuable to think creatively about potential solutions. While some commitment devices or environmental changes might be obvious, others might require more innovative thinking. The goal is to find solutions that work for our individual circumstances and preferences. Additionally, it's crucial to approach this process with patience and self-compassion. Habit change is rarely a linear process, and setbacks are normal. The advantage of focusing on environmental changes is that they continue to exert their influence even when our motivation wavers. In conclusion, while traditional advice on habit formation often focuses on willpower and motivation, there's immense power in shaping our environment to support our goals. By creating commitment devices, automating good behaviors, and making one-time changes that yield long-term benefits, we can significantly increase our chances of success. This approach recognizes that sustainable change often comes not from Herculean efforts of will, but from thoughtful adjustments to our surroundings and systems. It's about creating an environment where good habits are the path of least resistance and bad habits require conscious effort to maintain. As we move forward in our personal growth journeys, let's consider how we can leverage these principles. What commitment devices might help us overcome our specific challenges? What one-time actions could we take to set ourselves up for long-term success? By answering these questions and taking action, we can create lasting change with less ongoing effort, freeing up our mental energy to focus on what truly matters in our lives. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every step we take to align our environment with our aspirations is a step towards becoming the person we want to be. By making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible, we're not just changing our behaviors, we're reshaping our lives. In the bustling streets of a Pakistani neighborhood, where unsanitary conditions once led to widespread illness and disease, a remarkable transformation took place. This change wasn't brought about by advanced medical treatments or cutting-edge technology, but by something as simple as soap and the habit of hand-washing. The story begins with contaminated water sources causing epidemics of diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. In this densely populated area, nearly 1/3 of the children were malnourished, and the close quarters allowed viruses and bacterial infections to spread like wildfire. It was this dire public health crisis that brought researcher Stephen Luby and his team to Pakistan. Upon arrival, Luby and his colleagues quickly realized that in such an environment with poor sanitation, the simple act of washing one's hands could make a significant difference in the health of the residents. However, they soon discovered a surprising fact: many people were already aware that hand washing was important. This revelation highlights a crucial point about human behavior. Knowledge alone is often not enough to change habits or improve outcomes. The residents understood the importance of hand washing, but their practices were inconsistent and haphazard. Some would merely run their hands under water quickly, others would wash only one hand, and many would simply forget to wash their hands before preparing food. The problem wasn't a lack of information, it was a lack of consistency. This scenario is not unique to hand washing or to this particular community. We often see similar patterns in various aspects of our lives. We know we should exercise regularly, eat a balanced diet, or save money for the future, yet we struggle to consistently follow through on these intentions. This gap between knowledge and action is a fundamental challenge in behavior change. Recognizing this, Luby and his team took an innovative approach. They partnered with Procter & Gamble to supply the neighborhood with Safeguard soap. This wasn't just any ordinary soap, it was a premium product that provided a more enjoyable hand-washing experience. The soap foamed easily, allowing people to lather their hands with suds, and it had a pleasant scent. Suddenly, hand-washing became slightly more pleasurable. This strategy tapped into a powerful principle of behavior change: make it satisfying. We are more likely to repeat behaviors that provide immediate, positive feedback. The pleasant sensory experience of using the Safeguard soap, the feel of the lather, the appealing scent created a small but significant reward for the act of hand washing. The results were dramatic. Within months, the researchers observed a rapid shift in the health of children in the neighborhood. The rate of diarrhea fell by 52%, pneumonia by 48%, and impetigo, a bacterial skin infection, by 35%. These improvements in health outcomes were achieved not through complex medical interventions, but through the consistent practice of a simple habit made more enjoyable. Even more impressive were the long-term effects. When the researchers returned to some of the households in Karachi 6 years later, they found that over 95% of households who had been given the soap for free and encouraged to wash their hands still had a hand-washing station with soap and water available. The researchers hadn't provided any soap to the intervention group for over 5 years, yet the habit had become so ingrained that the practice was maintained. This long-term adherence to the hand-washing habit illustrates another critical aspect of behavior change: the power of habit formation. Once a behavior becomes habitual, it requires less conscious effort and decision-making. It becomes an automatic response to certain cues or situations. In this case, the residents had internalized hand-washing as a routine part of their daily lives, continuing the practice even years after the initial intervention. The success of this hand-washing initiative in Pakistan exemplifies what can be considered the fourth law of behavior change: make it satisfying. This principle asserts that we are more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. It's a logical concept. Feelings of pleasure, even minor ones, signal to our brain that a behavior is worth remembering and repeating. This principle isn't limited to hand-washing. We can see its application in various products and behaviors that have become widespread habits. Take chewing gum, for instance. While gum had been sold commercially throughout the 1800s, it wasn't until Wrigley launched in 1891 that it became a worldwide habit. Wrigley's innovation was to add flavors like spearmint and juicy fruit, making the product more enjoyable to use. They further enhanced the appeal by marketing gum as a way to refresh your taste, associating it with the pleasant feeling of a clean mouth. The success of flavored toothpaste follows a similar pattern. Manufacturers saw great success when they added flavors like spearmint, peppermint, and cinnamon to their products. These flavors don't actually improve the effectiveness of toothpaste in cleaning teeth. Instead, they create a clean mouth feel and make the experience of brushing teeth more pleasurable. This added satisfaction makes people more likely to maintain the habit of regular toothbrushing. These examples illustrate a fundamental truth about human behavior: what is rewarded is repeated, and what is punished is avoided. We learn what to do in the future based on what we were rewarded for, punished for in the past. Positive emotions cultivate habits, while negative emotions tend to destroy them. However, there's a crucial aspect to this principle that's easy to overlook. When we talk about making behaviors satisfying, we're not looking for just any type of satisfaction. We're specifically seeking immediate satisfaction. This is where we encounter a significant challenge in modern society: the mismatch between immediate and delayed rewards. To understand this mismatch, it's helpful to consider the environment in which the human brain evolved. For most of our species' history, we lived in what scientists call an immediate return environment. Imagine being an animal roaming the plains of Africa. Your decisions typically have an immediate impact. You're constantly focused on immediate concerns like finding food, avoiding predators, or seeking shelter. Your actions deliver clear and immediate outcomes. In contrast, modern society often operates in what's called a delayed return environment. Many of the choices we make today won't benefit us immediately. If we do a good job at work, we might get a paycheck in a few weeks. If we exercise today, we might see health benefits months or years down the line. If we save money now, it might secure our retirement decades in the future. This shift to a delayed return environment is relatively recent in human history, primarily occurring in the last 500 years or so. Compared to the age of the human brain, which has remained largely unchanged for about 200,000 years, modern society is brand new. Our brains evolved in an environment where immediate rewards were crucial for survival. And we still carry that hardware with us today. This mismatch between our brain's preference for immediate rewards and the delayed nature of many modern benefits creates significant challenges. It's one reason why we often struggle with behaviors that have long-term benefits but little immediate payoff. Saving for retirement, maintaining a healthy diet, or studying for future exams all require us to override our innate preference for immediate gratification. Understanding this mismatch is crucial for anyone trying to change their behavior or habits. It explains why it's often so difficult to maintain motivation for long-term goals, and why we're easily swayed by short-term pleasures even when we know they might not be in our best interest. So, how can we bridge this gap between our brain's desire for immediate satisfaction and the often delayed rewards of beneficial behaviors? One effective strategy is to find ways to add immediate positive feedback to otherwise unrewarding tasks. For instance, if you're trying to establish a habit of daily exercise, you might pair your workout with listening to your favorite podcast or audiobook. This way, even on days when you don't feel particularly motivated to exercise, you have the immediate reward of enjoying engaging content. Similarly, if you're trying to eat healthier, you might focus on finding nutritious recipes that are also delicious, providing immediate taste satisfaction alongside long-term health benefits. Another approach is to use a habit tracker or similar tool to provide immediate visual feedback on your progress. The simple act of marking off a day on a calendar or seeing a streak of successful days can provide a small but meaningful sense of accomplishment, helping to bridge the gap until the long-term benefits of your habit become apparent. It's also worth noting that while our brains may be wired for immediate gratification, we humans have a unique capacity for long-term thinking and planning. By consciously cultivating an appreciation for delayed rewards and regularly reminding ourselves of our long-term goals, we can gradually shift our perspective and find more satisfaction in behaviors that contribute to those goals. In conclusion, the story of the hand-washing initiative in Pakistan and the broader principles it illustrates offer valuable insights into human behavior and habit formation. By understanding the power of immediate satisfaction and the challenges posed by our delayed return environment, we can design more effective strategies for personal growth and societal change. Whether we're trying to improve public health, encourage better financial habits, or simply stick to our New Year's resolutions, making behaviors more immediately satisfying can be a powerful tool for positive change. As we navigate the complexities of modern life with our Stone Age brains, being aware of these principles can help us make better choices, form lasting habits, and bridge the gap between our actions today and our goals for tomorrow. By aligning our behaviors with both our long-term aspirations and our innate need for immediate satisfaction, we can create meaningful, sustainable changes in our lives and our world. In our quest for self-improvement and personal growth, we often find ourselves grappling with a peculiar challenge: the disconnect between our long-term aspirations and our short-term actions. This phenomenon, known as time inconsistency, is a fundamental aspect of human behavior that has far-reaching implications for our daily lives and long-term success. At its core, time inconsistency refers to our brain's tendency to value immediate rewards more highly than future benefits. This bias towards instant gratification is deeply ingrained in our neural circuitry, a remnant of our evolutionary past when immediate survival took precedence over long-term planning. In most situations, this inclination serves us well. After all, a reward that's certain and available right now is typically more valuable than one that's merely possible in the future. However, this same tendency can sometimes lead us astray, particularly in the modern world where many of our most important goals require sustained effort and delayed gratification. This misalignment between our immediate desires and our long-term objectives is at the heart of many of our struggles with habit formation and behavior change. Consider, for instance, the paradox of harmful behaviors like smoking, overeating, or engaging in unsafe sex. Most people are well aware of the potential long-term consequences of these actions. We know that smoking increases the risk of lung cancer, that overeating can lead to obesity and associated health problems, and that unsafe sex can result in sexually transmitted diseases. Yet, despite this knowledge, many individuals continue to engage in these behaviors. The reason for this apparent contradiction becomes clear when we understand how our brain prioritizes rewards. The consequences of these harmful habits are often delayed, sometimes by years or even decades. In contrast, the rewards are immediate and tangible. Smoking might increase your risk of cancer in the future, but it reduces stress and satisfies nicotine cravings now. Overeating may lead to health problems down the line, but it provides immediate pleasure and satiation. Unsafe sex might result in disease later, but it offers instant gratification. This pattern isn't limited to harmful habits. In fact, it's a characteristic of virtually all habits, both good and bad. Every habit produces multiple outcomes across time, but these outcomes are often misaligned. With detrimental habits, the immediate outcome is usually pleasurable, while the ultimate outcome is negative. Conversely, with beneficial habits, the immediate experience is often unenjoyable, but the long-term results are positive. Take exercise, for example. The immediate experience of working out can be uncomfortable, even painful. Your muscles ache, you're out of breath, and you might prefer to be relaxing on the couch. However, the long-term benefits of regular exercise, improved health, increased energy, better mood are substantial. The challenge lies in overcoming the immediate discomfort to reap these future rewards. This misalignment of outcomes across time creates a significant hurdle for behavior change. When we make plans to improve ourselves, whether it's losing weight, writing a book, or learning a new language, we're essentially making plans for our future selves. In these moments of planning, it's easy to see the value in actions that have long-term benefits. We all want better lives for our future selves, after all. However, when the moment of decision arrives, we're no longer choosing for that idealized future self. Instead, we're choosing for our present self, who craves comfort, pleasure, and immediate satisfaction. This is why relying solely on good intentions is rarely effective for long-term behavior change. The brain's bias towards the present moment is simply too strong. Understanding this tendency can help explain many of the seemingly irrational choices we make in our daily lives. It's why we might choose to watch TV instead of studying, even though we know studying will lead to better grades. It's why we might grab fast food instead of cooking a healthy meal, even though we're trying to eat better. In each of these moments, the allure of immediate gratification overpowers our longer-term goals. This preference for instant gratification reveals an important truth about success. Most people spend their days chasing quick hits of satisfaction. The path less traveled is the road of delayed gratification. If you're willing to wait for rewards, you'll often face less competition and potentially reap greater benefits. As the saying goes, the last mile is always the least crowded. Research consistently supports this idea. Studies have shown that individuals who are better at delaying gratification tend to have higher SAT scores, lower levels of substance abuse, lower likelihood of obesity, better responses to stress, and superior social skills. We've all observed this play out in our own lives. The student who resists the temptation to procrastinate and completes their assignments on time generally achieves better grades. The individual who forgoes purchasing junk food at the grocery store often maintains a healthier diet at home. At some point, success in nearly every field requires the ability to ignore an immediate reward in favor of a delayed, but ultimately more significant reward. This is true whether you're an athlete training for a competition, an entrepreneur building a business, or a writer working on a novel. The ability to delay gratification is a crucial skill for achieving long-term success. However, it's important to note that while delaying gratification is often the wise approach, it's not always easy or intuitive. Our brains are not naturally wired for long-term thinking, and constantly fighting against our instincts for immediate reward can be exhausting and unsustainable. So how can we work with our brain's tendencies rather than against them? The key lies in finding ways to make delayed gratification more appealing and immediate. Here are some strategies that can help. 1. Add immediate pleasure to long-term beneficial habits. Find ways to make habits with delayed rewards more immediately enjoyable. If you're trying to exercise more, pair your workout with listening to your favorite podcast or audiobook. This way you get an immediate reward enjoying the content along with the long-term benefits of exercise. 2. Add immediate consequences to harmful habits. Similarly, try to associate immediate, small negative consequences with habits you're trying to break. If you're trying to cut back on social media use, for example, you could commit to doing 10 push-ups every time you catch yourself mindlessly scrolling. 3. Use visual cues and tracking. Our brains respond well to visual feedback. Use habit trackers or charts to give yourself an immediate sense of accomplishment when you stick to a good habit. The satisfaction of marking off a day on a calendar can be a powerful motivator. 4. Create artificial milestones. Break long-term goals into smaller, more immediate targets. If you're saving for a big purchase, celebrate hitting smaller savings milestones along the way. 5. Practice mindfulness and visualization regularly. Take time to vividly imagine the long-term benefits of your good habits. This can help make those future rewards feel more real and immediate. 6. Use commitment devices. These are strategies where you make it more difficult or costly to engage in bad habits. For example, you might give a friend money to hold and only return if you meet your goal. 7. Reframe the immediate experience. Instead of focusing on the discomfort of a challenging habit, try to find aspects of the immediate experience to appreciate. For example, instead of dwelling on the physical strain of exercise, focus on the sense of accomplishment or the endorphin rush. 8. Create a reward system. Set up a system where you give yourself small, immediate rewards for sticking to your long-term habits. These rewards don't have to be large or costly. The key is that they're immediate and consistently applied. One particularly effective strategy is to turn instant gratification to your advantage by using a technique called reinforcement. This involves providing yourself with an immediate reward for completing a desired behavior. The key here is to make the reward instant and directly tied to the habit you're trying to build. For example, if you're trying to build a habit of daily meditation, you might reward yourself with a small piece of dark chocolate immediately after each session. The taste of the chocolate becomes an immediate, positive reinforcement for your meditation practice. Over time, your brain begins to associate meditation with this pleasant reward, making it easier to stick to the habit. This approach can be especially helpful when dealing with habits of avoidance behaviors you want to stop doing. It can be challenging to feel satisfied when you're simply not doing something, like not buying unnecessary items or not drinking alcohol. In these cases, you can create a system that makes the avoidance visible and rewarding. For instance, you could open a savings account labeled for something you want, like dream vacation or new guitar. Every time you successfully avoid a temptation, say, not buying that unnecessary gadget or skipping that expensive night out, you transfer the money you would have spent into this account. This way, you're turning the act of not doing something into a positive, but visible action. You're essentially creating a loyalty program for yourself, where your points accumulate towards something you genuinely want. This strategy not only provides immediate satisfaction, but also helps to reframe the experience of avoiding temptation. Instead of feeling deprived, you feel like you're actively working towards a goal. The immediate reward of seeing your savings grow feels much better than the nebulous sense of having resisted a temptation. It's worth noting that while these strategies can be highly effective, they're not magic bullets. Changing ingrained habits and overcoming our natural bias towards immediate gratification is a challenging process that requires patience, persistence, and self-compassion. It's normal to struggle and occasionally give in to temptation. The key is to view these moments not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and adjust your approach. Moreover, it's crucial to remember that delayed gratification isn't always the right choice. Sometimes, immediate experiences are valuable in their own right. The key is to find a balance that aligns with your values and long-term goals while still allowing for present enjoyment. In conclusion, understanding the concept of time inconsistency and our brain's bias towards immediate rewards can be a powerful tool in our quest for personal growth and habit formation. By acknowledging this aspect of our nature, we can design strategies that work with our brain's tendencies rather than against them. Whether it's adding immediate pleasures to beneficial habits, creating visible rewards for avoidance behaviors, or using reinforcement techniques, these approaches can help bridge the gap between our present actions and our future aspirations. Ultimately, the ability to delay gratification and work towards long-term goals is a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time. It's a journey of self-discovery and continuous improvement, one that requires patience, creativity, and a deep understanding of our own motivations and tendencies. By mastering this skill, we open ourselves up to greater achievements, deeper satisfaction, and a life more closely aligned with our true values and aspirations. The path may not always be easy, but the rewards both immediate and long-term make it a journey worth undertaking. In the pursuit of personal growth and self-improvement, we often find ourselves grappling with the challenge of maintaining good habits. We start with enthusiasm, determined to make positive changes in our lives, but as time passes, our resolve can waver. The key to lasting change, it turns out, lies not just in willpower or motivation, but in the way we approach habit formation itself. By understanding the psychology behind habit formation and employing strategic techniques, we can dramatically increase our chances of success. One of the most powerful tools in this journey is the concept of making habits satisfying. This idea is rooted in the fundamental principle that we are more likely to repeat behaviors that provide immediate rewards. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, and this instinct plays a crucial role in shaping our habits. However, there's a catch. Many of the habits we want to cultivate, like exercising regularly, eating healthily, or saving money, don't provide immediate gratification. Their benefits are often delayed, sometimes by months or even years. This delay can make it challenging to stick with these habits, especially when we're faced with more immediately rewarding alternatives. To overcome this challenge, we need to find ways to make our desired habits more immediately satisfying. This doesn't mean compromising on our long-term goals, but rather finding ways to bridge the gap between the present action and the future reward. One effective strategy is to create a system of short-term rewards that align with your long-term goals. For instance, if you're trying to exercise more, you might reward yourself with a relaxing bath or an episode of your favorite show after each workout. The key is to choose rewards that reinforce your desired identity rather than conflicting with it. If your goal is to improve your health, rewarding yourself with unhealthy food after exercising would be counterproductive. Instead, choose rewards that align with your vision of becoming a healthier person. This approach of aligning short-term rewards with long-term goals can be applied to virtually any habit you're trying to build. If you're aiming to read more, you might allow yourself to buy a new book only after finishing your current one. If you're trying to save money, you could allocate a small portion of your savings to a fun fund that you can spend guilt-free once you reach certain milestones. The power of this strategy lies in its ability to tap into our brain's reward system. By providing immediate positive reinforcement, we're training our brains to associate the habit with pleasure. Over time, this association can make the habit itself more enjoyable, reducing our reliance on external rewards. Another powerful technique for making habits stick is the use of visual tracking systems. This approach, sometimes called the paperclip strategy, involves creating a tangible representation of your progress. The name comes from a story about a young stockbroker who used 2 jars of paper clips to track his daily sales calls. Each time he made a call, he would move a paper clip from one jar to another. This simple act provided a clear, visual measure of his progress, which proved to be incredibly motivating. The beauty of this strategy lies in its simplicity and flexibility. You can adapt it to virtually any habit you're trying to build. For example, if you're trying to write a book, you might move a marble from one jar to another for each page you complete. If you're aiming to increase your daily step count, you could use a similar system to track your progress. These visual tracking systems work on multiple levels. First, they provide immediate satisfaction. The act of moving a paperclip or marking an X on a calendar gives you a small sense of accomplishment, which can be particularly motivating on days when you might not feel like sticking to your habit. Second, they make your progress visible. On days when you're feeling discouraged, you can look at your tracker and see how far you've come, which can provide the motivation to keep going. Perhaps the most comprehensive form of visual tracking is the habit tracker. This tool, which can be as simple as a calendar where you mark off each day you complete your habit, has been used by many successful individuals throughout history. Benjamin Franklin famously used a small booklet to track 13 personal virtues, while comedian Jerry Seinfeld is known for his don't break the chain approach to writing jokes every day. Habit tracking is powerful because it leverages multiple principles of behavior change simultaneously. It makes the habit obvious by providing a visual cue, attractive by showcasing your progress, and satisfying by giving you a sense of accomplishment each time you mark off a day. Moreover, habit tracking keeps you honest. Many of us have a tendency to overestimate how consistently we perform our habits. By keeping a record, we're forced to confront the reality of our behavior. This awareness alone can be a powerful motivator for change. The effectiveness of habit tracking has been demonstrated in numerous studies. Research has shown that people who track their progress on goals like losing weight, quitting smoking, and lowering blood pressure are more likely to succeed than those who don't. One study found that individuals who kept a daily food log lost twice as much weight as those who didn't track their eating habits. However, it's important to note that while tracking can be a powerful tool, it's not without potential pitfalls. One risk is becoming too focused on the act of tracking itself, rather than the underlying behavior you're trying to change. Remember, the tracker is a tool to support your habit, not the goal itself. Another potential issue is the risk of breaking the chain. Missing a day on your tracker can be discouraging, and some people might be tempted to give up entirely after a slip-up. It's crucial to remember that consistency matters more than perfection. If you miss a day, simply pick up where you left off. The goal is progress, not perfection. As you continue with your habit, you may find that the external rewards and tracking systems become less necessary. This is a natural and positive progression. Over time, the habit itself can become intrinsically rewarding. For example, someone who starts exercising for weight loss might initially need external motivators, but over time they may come to enjoy the energy boost and sense of accomplishment that comes with each workout. This shift from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation is a sign that the habit is becoming ingrained in your identity. When you reach this point, you're no longer just someone trying to exercise more, you've become someone who exercises regularly. This identity-based approach to habit formation can be incredibly powerful and sustainable. However, reaching this point takes time and consistency. In the meantime, don't hesitate to use whatever tools and strategies help you maintain your habit. Whether it's a paper-clip system, a habit tracker, or carefully chosen rewards, these techniques can provide the bridge you need to get from where you are to where you want to be. It's also worth considering how you can make the habit itself more enjoyable. This might involve finding ways to make the process more pleasant or combining the habit with activities you already enjoy. For instance, if you're trying to establish a running habit, you might listen to your favorite podcasts or audiobooks while you run. If you're aiming to cook more healthy meals at home, you could turn cooking into a social activity by inviting friends over or taking a cooking class. Remember, the goal is to create a positive feedback loop where the habit reinforces itself. By making the habit satisfying in the short term, you increase the likelihood that you'll stick with it long enough to reap the long-term benefits. As you embark on your journey of habit formation, it's important to be patient with yourself. Changing ingrained behaviors takes time, and setbacks are a normal part of the process. Each day is an opportunity to reinforce your desired identity and move closer to your goals. Moreover, don't underestimate the power of small wins. Consistently performing a small habit can lead to significant changes over time. Whether you're moving paper clips marking XS on a calendar or using a more sophisticated tracking system, each small action is a vote for the person you want to become. In conclusion, the key to sticking with good habits lies in making them satisfying. By providing immediate rewards, using visual tracking systems, and gradually shifting towards intrinsic motivation, we can bridge the gap between our present actions and our future goals. Remember, the most effective form of motivation is progress. By making your progress visible and rewarding, you create a positive feedback loop that can sustain your habits over the long term. As you apply these strategies, you may find that building good habits becomes not just easier, but enjoyable. And that, perhaps, is the greatest satisfaction of all, the realization that you're not just doing things differently, but becoming the person you aspire to be. So start small, track your progress, celebrate your wins, and watch as your habits transform not just your actions, but your identity. In the quest for personal growth and self-improvement, we often find ourselves grappling with the challenge of maintaining good habits. While starting a new habit can be exciting, the real test lies in consistently following through day after day, week after week. This is where the power of habit tracking comes into play, offering a simple yet effective tool to reinforce positive behaviors and keep us on track towards our goals. Habit tracking, at its core, is about making progress visible. It's a way of creating a tangible record of our efforts, transforming abstract goals into concrete actions. This visibility serves multiple purposes, each contributing to the overall effectiveness of the habit-building process. First and foremost, tracking creates a visual cue that reminds us to act. In our busy lives, it's easy to forget or postpone the habits we're trying to build. A habit tracker, whether it's a simple calendar with X's marking completed days or a more elaborate system, serves as a constant reminder of our commitments. It's a gentle nudge prompting us to take action when we might otherwise let things slide. But the power of habit tracking goes beyond mere reminders. It taps into our innate desire for progress and achievement. As we mark off each successful instance of our habit, we create a streak. This streak becomes a source of motivation in itself. We see the progress we're making, and we don't want to break the chain. This phenomenon, sometimes called the don't break the chain method, has been used by successful individuals across various fields, from comedians to writers to athletes. The satisfaction of recording our progress is another key benefit of habit tracking. There's a small but significant sense of accomplishment that comes from crossing an item off a to-do list or marking an X on a calendar. This feeling of satisfaction is immediate and tangible, providing a quick hit of dopamine that reinforces the behavior. In essence, the act of tracking becomes its own reward, making the habit more likely to stick. Moreover, habit tracking shifts our focus from the end result to the process itself. When we're trying to build a new habit, it's easy to get discouraged if we don't see immediate results. For instance, if you're trying to lose weight, you might get frustrated if the number on the scale doesn't change as quickly as you'd like. But by tracking your workouts or healthy meals, you're focusing on what you can control, your daily actions, rather than the outcome, which can be influenced by many factors beyond your control. This focus on process over outcome is crucial for long-term success. It helps us build a new identity, casting votes for the type of person we want to become with each action we take. Every time we mark off a completed habit, we're not just recording an action, we're reinforcing a belief about ourselves. We're saying, I'm the type of person who doesn't miss workouts, or I'm a writer who writes every day. Over time, these small actions and the beliefs they reinforce can lead to significant changes in our self-image and, consequently, our behavior. Despite these benefits, many people resist the idea of habit tracking. It can feel like an additional burden, adding another task to our already busy lives. Some worry that it will take too much time or that they'll forget to do it. Others may feel that it's unnecessary, that they should be able to remember to do the habit without needing to track it. These concerns are valid, but they often overlook the long-term benefits of tracking in favor of short-term convenience. While it's true that tracking requires some effort, this investment of time and energy can pay significant dividends in terms of habit adherence and personal growth. That said, it's important to approach habit tracking in a way that works for you. If the idea of manually recording every instance of a habit feels overwhelming, look for ways to automate the process. Many of us are already tracking various aspects of our lives without realizing it. Credit card statements track our spending habits, fitness trackers record our physical activity, and calendar apps log our appointments and commitments. By leveraging these existing data sources and setting up regular review periods, we can gain insights into our behavior without adding much additional work. For habits that do require manual tracking, it's often best to focus on just one or two key behaviors rather than trying to track everything at once. Choose the habits that are most important to you or that you're struggling with the most. By limiting your focus, you increase the likelihood of consistent tracking. Another key to successful habit tracking is to record each instance of the habit immediately after it occurs. This approach, combined with habit stacking linking a new habit to an existing one, can make tracking feel more natural and less of a chore. For example, you might decide to record your workout immediately after putting away your gym bag or log your meditation session right after turning off your meditation app. While consistent tracking can be incredibly powerful, it's important to remember that perfection is not the goal. Life is unpredictable, and there will inevitably be times when our habits get disrupted. The key is not to let these disruptions derail you completely. One powerful principle to keep in mind is never miss twice. If you slip up and miss a day, the most important thing is to get back on track as quickly as possible. Missing once is an accident, missing twice is the start of a new habit. By recommitting to the habit immediately after a slip-up, you prevent a temporary setback from turning into a permanent abandonment of your goals. This principle of quick recovery is a distinguishing feature of successful individuals across various fields. Everyone has bad days or periods of lower performance. What sets high achievers apart is their ability to rebound quickly from these setbacks. They understand that the occasional bad day or missed habit is far less important than the overall trend of their behavior. In fact, showing up on the days when you don't feel like it or can't perform at your best can be even more important than the days when everything goes smoothly. These bad days maintain the compound gains you've accrued from previous good days. Even if you can't do the habit as thoroughly or effectively as you'd like, doing something is always better than doing nothing. It's about maintaining momentum and reinforcing your identity as someone who follows through on their commitments. This approach also helps avoid the all-or-nothing mindset that can be so detrimental to habit formation. Too often, people fall into the trap of thinking that if they can't do something perfectly, they shouldn't do it at all. This black and white thinking can lead to giving up entirely after a small setback. By embracing the idea that something is always better than nothing, we can maintain consistency even when circumstances aren't ideal. While habit tracking can be a powerful tool, it's important to ensure we're tracking the right things. Sometimes, the most obvious or easiest to measure metrics aren't necessarily the most meaningful. For example, if you're trying to improve your diet, simply tracking calories might not give you the full picture. You might be hitting your calorie goals but not getting proper nutrition. In this case, tracking the number of whole, unprocessed foods you eat each day might be more beneficial. Similarly, if you're trying to improve your productivity at work, tracking hours worked might not be as useful as tracking the number of important tasks completed. The key is to choose metrics that truly align with your goals and provide meaningful feedback on your progress. It's also worth noting that not all habits need to be tracked indefinitely. Sometimes tracking is most useful in the early stages of habit formation when we're still establishing the behavior. Once the habit becomes more ingrained, we might be able to ease off on tracking without losing the habit itself. The goal, ultimately, is for the behavior to become so automatic that we no longer need external reinforcement to maintain it. In conclusion, habit tracking is a powerful tool in the quest for personal growth and behavior change. By making our progress visible, providing immediate satisfaction, and shifting our focus to the process rather than just the outcome, tracking can significantly increase our chances of successfully building new habits. However, like any tool, its effectiveness depends on how we use it. By choosing meaningful metrics, focusing on consistency rather than perfection, and using tracking as a means to reinforce our desired identity, we can harness the full potential of this approach. Remember, the goal isn't just to check boxes or create perfect streaks. It's to gradually shape ourselves into the person we want to become. Each tracked instance of a habit is a vote for that future self. Over time, these small votes can lead to profound changes in our behavior, our self-image, and ultimately our lives. So whether you're trying to exercise more, eat healthier, write daily, or any other positive habit, consider incorporating tracking into your approach. Start small, be consistent, and don't be discouraged by occasional setbacks. With patience and persistence, you may find that the simple act of tracking your habits becomes a transformative force in your journey of self-improvement. In the realm of behavior change and habit formation, we often focus on positive reinforcement and making good habits more attractive. However, there's another powerful tool in our arsenal making bad habits immediately unsatisfying. This approach, while less discussed, can be incredibly effective in curbing unwanted behaviors and promoting positive change. The concept is rooted in our innate tendency to avoid pain and discomfort. Just as we're more likely to repeat experiences that end on a satisfying note, we're equally inclined to avoid experiences that conclude with discomfort or pain. This principle can be harnessed to great effect in our quest for self-improvement and behavioral change. Consider the story of Roger Fisher, a Harvard Law School professor who specialized in negotiation and conflict management. In the 1970s and 1980s, as the threat of nuclear war loomed large, Fisher proposed an unconventional idea to prevent hasty decisions about nuclear launches. He suggested implanting the nuclear launch codes in a volunteer's chest right next to their heart. The president, if ever deciding to launch nuclear weapons, would first have to physically kill this volunteer to access the codes. Fisher's proposal, while extreme, illustrates a profound point about human behavior. By making the act of launching nuclear weapons viscerally and immediately painful, it would force decision makers to confront the reality of their actions in a way that abstract numbers and distant consequences never could. The immediacy and personal nature of the pain would serve as a powerful deterrent. This principle extends far beyond hypothetical scenarios about nuclear war. It applies to our everyday lives and habits in numerous ways. Pain, both physical and emotional, is an incredibly effective teacher. When failure or mistakes result in immediate and tangible pain, we're quick